So does Molt Bot live up to the hype? That's what I'm going to share in this video. I basically spent the past 3 days trying to get this set up. I'm not a developer, just a guy who likes to play with AI, probably an advanced user, a little bit more technical than most, but not a developer, not a coder, not an engineer. And I've had some wins and a lot of struggles to get this thing working. So I'm going to show you what I did, how I set mine up, what's working, what's not, so you can decide for yourself if this is something that you should do. So first of all, when it first came out a couple weeks ago, it was called ClawdBot, C-L-A-W bot. Just like yesterday, they had to change the name to Molt Bot because of how close that sounds to Claude, the other AI tool. So you can get it at molt.bot.com. So basically, the promise is the AI that actually does things. You can see that right here. It says exfoliate. So basically, the idea is that this is a tool that you can actually program or have it program itself to do stuff for you. Send emails, clear inbox, manage calendars, write code, create applications. There's a lot of use cases that people are talking about. So I saw that the other day and I thought, I want to try this out. Like, I've tried some other AI agent tools in the past. They didn't quite work the way I thought they should, or the way it was easy for me. And so I saw this, I saw what people were doing. I went on YouTube and watched a whole bunch of videos about it. I thought, okay, this is cool. I should try this. So here's what happened. It's hard to set up because in order to set it up, you basically have a couple options. You can do it locally. So this is not an app where you can go here and you can create an account here at Molt Bot. This is open source. Anybody can use it for free, the actual bot part of it. But in order for it to do anything, you have to use credits on some AI platform that you have. So we'll talk about that in a second. But basically, I didn't want to do it on my local computer because the danger of this is if you give an AI agent the ability to do stuff on your computer, it can do stuff on your computer. So it's going to have access to your files. It's going to have access to your email, all the things that you would have access to on your local machine, it's going to be able to have access to. So that means that if something goes wrong, if somebody hacks into it or sends it I forget the term, there's a way of prompting, like a sneaky way of prompting that some websites can do where they insert a prompt, so like a malicious prompt, into an AI that's reading the website, right? So there's a big risk there, and I don't want to take that risk right now. So the other way that you can do this is to buy a separate machine or use an old computer. So a lot of people are buying Minimax. I don't want to spend $600 on that quite yet for something that I don't know if it's going to really work for me or the way I would want it to work. So I do have an old computer sitting around, but it's really old. And I figured it was probably going to be more hassle to get that just to be turned on all the time and running than another option, which is a VPS. I have one here. This is Hostinger. You can basically get it for $5 a month. There's other people who used AWS and other kind of things. But basically, when you go in, you've got to set up Molt Bot through terminal. So I don't know anything about any of this stuff. So what I did is I actually had Perplexity teach me how to do it step by step. Basically, I just started it asking it to tell me about ClawdBot because I wanted to research it before I decided if it was something I wanted to try to set it for myself. So it gave me a whole bunch of details about it. And then I actually took this. I think I had Claude also do some research on it. Claude's where I do more of my day-to-day work now. So then I had it tell me if it thought that it was worthwhile. And initially, Claude was like, no, it's not worthwhile because you're just doing some content creation and this isn't going to help you. But then I explained like, hey, I've actually got, because Claude doesn't know everything about me. So I said, well, no, I've got 4 different Google LM accounts. I've got 7 different inboxes that I manage. I've got 2 newsletters. I've got all of this stuff going on. I got clients across different instances of Gmail or Google and different things. When I explained all that, I kind of said, well, maybe it would help you. Because again, part of the idea, the promise here of Molt Bot is that it gets to know you and it has persistent memory over time. So it keeps context about you. And the idea of that is then it can also start to be proactive, come with recommendations, help you figure things out in a way that maybe you couldn't figure out in a traditional LLM because each conversation is siloed. So I saw that, I said, okay, that sounds good. Let me try this. But again, since I have no idea what I was doing, and this is dangerous, right? Like I know enough to be dangerous. Basically what I did is you can see down here, I started to have it tell me, hey, here's how I want to do it. So I asked a bunch of questions about it, thinking about how I could have it work with different sources. I had to compare it to different options that are out there. How does this compare to Claude Cowork? How does this compare to Mana? So all that stuff, I'm not going to get into all that in this video, but this was the research that I did for myself before deciding if I even wanted to try this out. This is a very long conversation. And eventually I told it what I wanted it to do. I was going to set it up in VPS. All these questions about it. Okay. So here's how I said I can do it in VPS. Checked against AWS. And then finally got started. So you can here you can see basically it would tell me what I needed to do step by step. Here, open this link, click there, paste in this piece. And it started off with a whole bunch of steps. So it was giving me lots and lots of steps, but I couldn't follow. Like one thing would go wrong. And then I was like, oh, where am I at? So I just said, let's go step by step. So literally, this is how I did it. You can see here, I got a step 2, like I would paste in exactly the output that I got from terminal. And just again, for people who aren't familiar, because if you're not familiar with terminal, then this is definitely probably not for you. I'm very moderately familiar with it, but I don't use it, but I can follow the instructions to use it. So that's what I did here. So you can see this is just on my local drive. So if you were to install it on your local drive, you would do it through here. Again, I'm not going to go through all of the instructions on how to do it because there's plenty of other tutorials. And literally, if you're like me, you just want to have Perplexity teach you how to do it. So that's all I did. Step by step, installed it. And through some miracle, I was actually able to get it to be installed. Now, the thing is, once it's installed on like a VPS, there's nothing there that you can actually see. It's all through that terminal interface. Well, how you interact with it is through a messaging app. So the one that works quickly and best is Telegram. I'm not a normal Telegram user, but you can see here, I set my Molt Bot up here. I actually named mine Data. I'm a nerd, reached back into Star Trek lore to Data, who is the humanoid android that was always trying to explore what it meant to be human without the human emotions. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I like that little callback. So I named mine Data, and this is where I was able to start having conversations with him. And basically, the thing that I realized once I get in here is it's really cool because you can set it up so that you're having your Molt Bot fix itself and do things for itself. So once you get it connected, like I'm jumping around here a little bit because it's trying to remember what I did. I spent almost all day Monday doing this and like a couple hours over the next few days just trying to get it to work. And so it's now Thursday. I would say it's working, but I haven't really had a chance to get anything back out of it in a meaningful way. Right? Because one of those things, you have to connect it to an LLM for it to have the ability to work. So at first I connected it. I have a Claude Pro account. So there's a way that you can use your Claude Pro account. I'm not going to go through this test because I just had Perplexity tell me what to do. And it involved doing some stuff on my local desktop to get a code from Claude that I put into the terminal in the setup. And then I was able to use Claude. But the problem is that I'm only on the Pro plan, which is a $20 a month plan, and it's eating up my credits. So then I went, and there's another recommended tool a lot of people use called Minimax. Again, I don't know anything about Minimax. It was just recommended as a affordable AI tool, like AI backend that you could use. So I went and put in $20 worth of credits on Minimax and set that up so that it's now supposed to switch back and forth. Use Minimax for the easy stuff and then self-identify when it's more complex, then I'll switch over and use Claude. And all of that, it actually is doing itself. So once you get it set up, that's the pretty cool thing, is almost everything now, it just builds itself. So you tell it, hey, I need you to do this, and it'll either try to figure out how to do it, or if you have to go set something up, it'll go set it up. So here in Telegram, as we're starting to have the conversations with it, and I was coming in with the paradigm of the typical LLMs that we've been using, right? Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT. So I was thinking in terms of setting up project. Usually what I do you can't do it in Gemini yet, but you can in ChatGPT. You set up projects for each kind of thing that you're doing. You give it documents, system prompt, etc. So then that particular project has good context about what you're trying to do, and you can have multiple projects set up at the same time, and you hop between them. So everything stays siloed and separate. And that's how I've been used to working. And so initially I thought, I was like, okay, I want data, I want Molt Bot to work that way. But the problem is it really doesn't. So I found that out only when I switched over to Slack. So started with Telegram, then I switched over and I set it up in Slack. So I created a new Slack instance. It's just a free Slack account and was able to get it set up here. Again, the nice thing is just was working in Telegram to have it tell me how to set up the Slack version of itself. And then once I was over here, then I was able to have it tell me what else I needed to do to set up the channels. And I actually was able to create the channel. So again, the difference between an LLM that just says, hey, here are the channels that would work for you. It actually told me the channel and I said, okay, go create them. And once I gave it the permissions to do, it actually created the channels in Slack. The problem is the way it set it up is each channel was an independent conversation. So it couldn't remember. You can see here, like I have my daily emails, my newsletter, How I AI, some client work that I do, my YouTube channel. And so when I was having a conversation inside one of those chats, the other chats didn't see what was going on. So that whole idea of persistent memory and context wasn't really happening. I tried to get it to set up some ways of reminding itself and creating memories and being able to see across the channels. And that could have worked. I actually got it to where I had figured out how to do that. But across the 8 channels that I had set up, what that meant was that I was going to end up using a lot of AI, like a lot of tokens, to keep that memory up to date. And again, I'm not wanting this to right now become something that I'm spending a lot of tokens just to get that persistent memory when there maybe is a better way. I'm now going to be down for now to daily workflow in general. That's where I started this morning, is setting that up so it can have persistent memory between those two things, but not using the other channels. And now I've got to figure out what's next. How else can I use this to actually start to get the value out of all of these hours that I spent setting it up? And so a couple of things that I'm going to do, I need to get connected to my Google Drive. So I'm debating how to do that. And again, what's cool is up here, I asked it, like, I want to connect you to Google Drive. I want to give you access to documents. How can I do that? Give me a rating of the ease of use and the security issues that I would face in the different methods, right? And so then it's giving me a couple options. I now just have to decide which is the right one that I want to do. What I did in the meantime to start to get it more knowledge and information about me is I use a tool, a personal management tool called Capacities. And Capacities is Notion or Obsidian or these other tools that you might use, kind of the same basic concept. And what it does is every individual note that you create, it actually can back it up as what's called a .md file. So a .md file is like a notepad, like you can open it in Notepad. It's just a text file. And so they're portable. So that's what's really nice about using a tool like Obsidian, or I think you can do it with Notion. You can export as MD files, Capacities, etc., is that you can then export those and take them to other documents. So what I ended up doing is setting it up so that every day my Capacities will do a backup to a local file. And then I set up what's called a GitHub. As you can see here, it's just a file. It's just something you got to download. So basically, this lives on my local drive and it's connected to a Git account online. And that Git account online, my Molt Bot can access. And so what it does is everything that it's doing, it's creating a backup into that Git repository, which I can then see. I can fetch from down there. I can pull it down. And then here I have my Capacities backup. So anything I want to add, whether it's Capacities or anything else, or transcript, I can actually load it onto my local drive, and then I can push it from my local computer up into the cloud, and then Molt Bot can access it from Git. So that was what I set up to be able to give it hundreds and hundreds of documents of like daily journal notes, copies of all of my newsletters and everything that I keep in Capacities. So I was able to give it so that it now has, again, that memory to see if it can start helping me to figure out how to do better and come up with ideas. I've also set up some what are called Cron Jobs. Cron Jobs are where you say, hey, every day at 9:30, I want you to ask me what my to-dos are for today, and then follow up with me an hour later. And then at 5:30, I want you to check in to see if I did my stuff. At midnight, I want you to create a copy file of everything we discussed that day, any links, all of the questions that I've asked, a summary of our conversation. It should be created as a daily note so that you keep a memory of everything that I've shared with you. So those are the things that I've been doing with it so far. And my verdict is still out. I've spent a lot of hours on it. I think I see a lot of promise. If you go search for Molt Bot or ClawdBot on YouTube, you're going to find people apoplectic about how amazing it is and it's changed their lives. And there's people doing really cool stuff with it already. And it is the future, I think, of where we're going with agentic AI. The challenge really is this version of it is not beginner friendly. You do have to have some either ability to follow technical instructions or know how to code and do all those things yourself, just so you can get the most out of it. I'm probably doing it half wrong. And that's why I'm having so much difficulty with it. But I wanted to explore and see what I could figure out of it. So if you're still figuring out how to use ChatGPT projects, and if you're still you've never created a skill inside of Claude, this is probably not a tool you're ready to use or would need to use. You're probably not going to get as much value out of it with the amount of time that it would take to set up. If you're a little bit more advanced and you're at that edge of like, hey, I feel like there's got to be a better way to get AI to do stuff for me, then this might be the tool that it's worth taking the time to figure out. And even if it doesn't help you today, even if you decide that like I'm on the verge of maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not, even if I decide that it's not worth it, the fact that I've gone through this effort is going to help me. I've learned a lot like of how to set these things up. I've learned a lot about what can work and what can't work. So the next tool that comes out, whether it's a newer version of Molt Bot or whether Claude or Google or Anthropic or whatever, Anthropic is Claude, whoever, comes out with a new AI agent that works better, I think my ability to analyze it and determine if it's going to work for my needs will be that much better and that much faster. So that's where I'm at. Love to hear what you think about it in the comments. If you found this video helpful, follow, subscribe for more. I've got a couple newsletters that I send out that are also about how I use AI and how I'm building a solo business with AI as one of the key components. So check those out, and thanks for watching.